Initially, I was in, now where was it? Gothenburg in Sweden at a conference, and it was the way to find out what was going on because hundreds of people have arrived, some of them you do and don't know. Um, and they're organising themselves to meet up in the days before the conference. They're organising, finding out where each other's staying, see who's where with other people, and the way to do that, the simplest way it seemed was a hashtag for the conference. And you find out more of what's going on than you do just other ways. It's not brilliant, but it's better than nothing. I use Twitter for research. I have Facebook for personal stuff, but it's only Twitter for research. I guess more and more things have social media bits in them, but if you're thinking of social media platforms, it's really just Twitter. So opportunities that have come up in social media are mostly things that could have risen otherwise, but that I wouldn't have cottoned onto. It's the easiest way to cotton onto what's going on. So for me, Twitter is used for connecting mostly with local people, actually, at the moment, rather than people from overseas. And it's an easy and efficient way to find out what's going on so that I can be at places that are interesting. So things that are going on in the programming language community in Sydney are talks that people are giving at universities or industry, meetups that are happening. Those are quite good to go to. But you can't go to all of them because it's 3 or 4 a week. So you just want to be able to keep an eye on what's going on and get to the ones that are most useful. And what's most useful is not just by the topic list, which I could find out myself. What's most useful is by the attendance as well, because it's getting to know people and working with them and finding out what they're doing that's really important. So there might be a talk that I'm not interested in, but 10 people I'm interested in are going. Well, that pops up on my list. And so there's 2 groups of academic colleagues. There's the ones who are in my tight group, the programming languages research community, and they use Twitter quite a lot. In fact, that's why I'm on Twitter, because basically the place where functional programming language researchers gather. In the broader context of the entire department, which is another 25 or so academics, I don't think a lot of them are using social media. Why that is, I'm totally guessing. But one of my guesses might be the demographic distribution. I'm the youngest member of the department at 36 years old. So there's a lot of people who have spent quite a lot of their lives without social media influencing it. And so it's a bigger jump for them. Risks in social media for a researcher, I think they're relatively light. I mean, there's the obvious risks of making a fool of yourself, but you can do that anywhere, anytime. I don't have a large group of followers on Twitter. I don't have thousands of people that I'm talking to. I have dozens of people that I'm talking to. And there are dozens of people that I have talked to already face-to-face or would talk to in the future. So in a sense, there's not much risk there if you keep it professional. I mean, there is a pretty clear break. I'm following Twitter feeds from lots of people in the programming language community. They don't tell me much except about their research. So not much trouble comes up, really. Using Twitter has definitely affected face-to-face because, not just because I can keep more tightly connected with local people who I don't have time. And Sydney's a big city. When I say local, I mean across Sydney. I don't really have a chance to visit the people at NICTA and the various companies and University of New South Wales, UTS, where they're doing some of the research. University of Sydney, I can't visit them all the time. So it helps to keep that network tight enough that we're all friends, I guess. But it also helps to keep the wider network of researchers tied just tightly enough to each other that I can walk into a conference and there's someone I've never physically met before, but I can walk up and have a chat with them about what's going on because I know what they've been doing over the last however long I've been following them. For keeping up with programming language research, and in fact computing research in general, you pretty much have to keep your eye on the conferences. Everything moves so quickly in computing that you've got to be scanning the lists of papers that come through the good conferences, and that gives you a really strong idea of what's going on. But that only gets you half the way because those titles and those abstracts are the carefully constructed answers to questions that people have. It's not the thoughts that they've been pondering. One of the big things about doing research in programming languages is you're part of a much bigger thought process, bigger than one person, and you have to be a part of that process. It doesn't really work as well to be a lone ranger doing your own thought process off in one direction. So how do you get tied in with other people's thought processes? Well, the typical old way of doing it is by being in a laboratory group in a university and having those groups talk to each other, and you get this hierarchy of people who are spreading information around. Well, the social media makes that easier. It helps you to tie in a bit more with what people are thinking, what they're interested in, just the context of the papers that you're later reading. Well, I certainly think it's important to measure the impact of your research. Well, let me say, hypothetically, it's important. I think it's probably impossible. So I'm not sure how you would do it. We have this concept in computing of intractable problems, which are ones that you can describe the problem quite neatly, but you can't. You need the you need the time of 25 million universes to solve it, right? It's just impossible to get done. We know how to do it. Right? We can tell you that's how you do it. We have mathematically proven that's the only way to do it, but the universe will die before you get the answer. And so it feels a bit like one of those problems. It feels a bit like a problem. Yes, I'd love to be able to track the impact of my research, but that means knowing how every single human has interacted with the work I've done and the work that's related to the work I've done, and I don't know. So being an insider in the discipline is utterly vital in computing and programming languages in particular, because you're not taking facts and making new facts from them, although you are doing it. You're not just taking facts and making new facts from them. You're taking facts that people are interested in and making new facts that people are interested in from them. And you have to know what people are interested in. And that's the challenge, especially from all the way over in Sydney, Australia, when most of the research is happening, in our particular case, in Western Europe, but for other disciplines in other parts of the world. There's not a lot of disciplines that are centred on the east coast of Australia in computing. So how do you keep up with what people are interested in? That's where the social media really helps. So the main piece of advice for using social media is just to treat it as a lightweight thing. Just to plug in, see what happens. It's not a big deal. It's just a connection. You can pay as much attention to it as you want, or as little attention to it as you want, as it suits you.